Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for June 29th, 2016. Not a lot to talk about out in the tropics today. The Atlantic, very quiet. Even in the eastern Pacific, things are generally quiet. One area of disturbed weather here south of the Gulf of Tehuantepec. Forecast to move off in this general direction over the next few days. We can see that better on the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook. Mousing over it tells us, maybe if it'll work, there we go, 60% chance of development over the next 5 days. And the key here is that they mention, the National Hurricane Center does, that this will remain well offshore of the coast of Mexico. So folks that have interest here, over the next few days, this shouldn't bother you. Even if it does develop, it looks like it'll remain well offshore, maybe sending, if it develops, a few swells your way for some surfing perhaps, but even that, doesn't look like it's going to develop too much in the models. This part of the globe, still tropical cyclone free, at least from getting a name. There was a depression, TD number 1E, down here a couple weeks ago, whatever, and that's about it for the year. So nice and quiet as we head into the weekend ahead. Coming up a few days from now, not yet, obviously it's just Wednesday, but hey, maybe I'm anxious for the weekend. But it's looking good for the Atlantic and the Pacific. So as we end the month of June here, we're almost to the end of it. This is what it looked like for development areas over the past 100+ years or so. And this is what the first 10 days of July looks like, a little bit of a sneak peek. Hey, look, there's a few developments here just east of the islands. This is a nice cluster. And then you have 3 of them out here between the Cape Verde Islands and about 40 degrees west longitude there, and a smattering of development areas in the subtropics. The Gulf still kind of busy, but look at how empty, for the most part, the Caribbean Sea is during the month of July. Really no significant development areas, and certainly none in the eastern or central Caribbean the first 10 days of the month. But boy, the Pacific, the eastern Pacific here, really busy during that first 10-day time frame of July. Will it be this year? We'll have to see. Things have certainly been quiet thus far. Checking out the tropical cyclone heat potential. I like watching this. The numbers keep going up. Pretty warm water temperatures off the southeast coast here. Gulf, Caribbean, of course, going to always be warm. But boy, the Atlantic as a whole, this area has really expanded. And once we get into August and September, this is going to matter more and more. And Monday, I'll do another compare and contrast of this year versus last year. If nothing else to do, we can at least do that. But yeah, it's interesting, especially right here off the southeast coast, some of that very warm water coming up right against the coastline. Low values of heat potential, but again, it's not zero like you would have up here, for example. And it doesn't matter right now. Just, hey, it's great for going to the beach. Look at it that way. Well, make it positive. It's a good thing if you like warm water. In fact, my office is here in Wilmington, North Carolina. I go to Wrightsville Beach, and yeah, that water is lovely at about 81, 82 degrees in the surf. So remember this from the other day. We were talking about the GFS MJO forecast versus the Euro, and how there was quite a difference between the two. And this is the update for today, June 29th through the 13th of July. And you see that it's going into the null phase, as we call it, and then the GFS and its ensemble is really amplifying that Madden-Julian oscillation into the areas that would favor the Western Hemisphere. And you say, oh, well, here we go, probably something going to develop. But then you look at the Euro, it's still wacky. It's like, really? How could that be? That one hasn't trended towards the other. They're both still holding strong. The GFS, remember, looks like this, and the Euro over here like this. I mean, just look at them as I go back and forth on the tabs. That's just nuts. That's quite a disparity, and I can't explain it. I would have to really do some digging, and I'm just a little too lazy to do that. That's up for other people. If you follow Michael Ventris from WSI and the Weather Company on Twitter, VENTRICE, I think it's MJ Ventris or something like that on Twitter. Just look up Michael Ventris. He knows a lot more about this stuff here, the MJO and its differences between the models, than I do, but it is quite perplexing, and I wish I had an explanation for it. It's just basically the differences in how each model and their own physics internally are seeing the atmosphere over the next couple of weeks. The GFS indicating quite an amplification of the MJO. Conversely, the Euro not so much. So we'll keep watching. Some talk that maybe mid-July things could get more busy in the Atlantic Basin. And, that makes sense. We start climbing the climatological ladder a little bit, more efficiently, I guess you would say. It starts to ramp up a little more in July. And, I showed you that here on the first 10 days. We went from June where we hardly had any development out here, and now you have a few over the past 100-plus years. So, things are gradually going to get busier, and then we may have a very busy August and September. You never know. It looks like all the players are set. The warm water temperatures, the shear is coming down, especially from where it was the last couple of years. An interesting time ahead. But, for the next few days, things are quiet, and that is great news. Take advantage of it. Enjoy the beach if you're headed out there, no matter where you are. And just watch out for those pop-up thunderstorms. We've had those here in southeast North Carolina lately, and that lightning, of course, can be deadly, so keep an eye on that. We want you back to be able to watch these outlooks, especially when things get really interesting down the road. All right, well, that's it from me for today. Have a great rest of your Wednesday afternoon, and thanks, as always, for tuning in. I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com, and I'll talk to you again on Friday.